Dumela. It's an absolute privilege to speak to you today. I'd like to firstly thank KG for the opportunity to present this video. Today I'd like to talk to you about three things. Firstly, technology, secondly, storytelling, and thirdly, sustainable intensification. And I'm going to touch on each of these topics just shortly with the hope of being able to expand on them in future conversations with you all. And so a quick background, my name is Keeys. I'm the Business Development Manager for Farmax, which is an agricultural technology company in New Zealand. But I also do a lot of work internationally across many different agricultural sectors. So the three topics I've chosen to speak about, the general theme that I want to discuss is the future of these topics. And so firstly with technology. So as I'm sure you're aware, the technology space around the world is accelerating at a very fast rate. And agriculture is no longer an exception and is also speeding along with extremely fast pace. And that's opening up new opportunities that have never existed before. And some of those opportunities, which often were thought to be decades in the future, are now going to be available to us in a few short years. So just touching on one example of this is satellite technology. So satellites being extremely expensive gadgets in space are often almost neglected as to their opportunities to assist in agriculture. But recently, their involvement in agriculture and the opportunity has started to be realized, particularly in cropping and arable farms. And because these satellites are generally serving a specific purpose and using sensors and cameras on the satellites as a secondary purpose, it's extremely scalable and very cheap to get the data and information from them. So where a lot of technologies you might think are only available to large farms, technology and information from satellites is applicable to everyone from a 5-hectare farm to a 5,000-hectare farm, and it's becoming more and more accessible wherever you are in the world. Some of the examples of the types of information that we're able to retrieve from satellite data isn't only being able to identify areas of pests or disease in the crop, which can sometimes be difficult when you're looking at it from ground level, but also identifying areas of the farmland or the field that could be lacking in specific nutrients and require specific fertilizer. Or it can also be used for better understanding growth rates and growth patterns. So all of this relates to precision agriculture, and there's a whole suite of technologies that are coming available, satellites and satellite imagery like this just being one of them. And it's certainly going to be accessible to farms in Africa and Botswana in the coming years, regardless of your access to technology. And the second thing I wanted to touch on is storytelling. And so what I mean by this is that there's a new social trend emerging worldwide of consumer demand for products that have a real story behind them, where consumers want to make purchases that are going to reflect their values and what they want to see in the world. And this is a massive opportunity for Botswanan farming in the future. Now I understand that predominantly Botswanan agricultural produce is consumed domestically, and I believe it's a relatively small proportion of agricultural land makes up land of the country. But it's surprising what collaborative scale can actually achieve in accessing export markets and essentially new money that can be brought into the economy through export, which provides real opportunity for agricultural industry growth. This is supported by initiatives such as a Forgotten Foods Network in Malaysia, and that's a large business setup which sole purpose is to identify niche or unique food types that aren't the standard common staples that could potentially be used to create full integrated supply chains where farmers are able to collaborate and export their products into international markets. And there's funding and support mechanisms available to put this into place. And though that does seem probably quite different to what's been done in the past, it's becoming more and more achievable. And as I say, introducing export money into the agricultural industry of Botswana is what will really be able to drive future innovation and improvement. And finally, I wanted to talk about sustainable intensification itself and the opportunity for optimization within farms. So across most agricultural sectors throughout the world that I work with, there's a few key things that you really see, which may seem relatively simple, but are absolutely critical in terms of being able to produce the most you can from the land that you've got. And the first one, perhaps the most simple, but often the most poorly recognized, is understanding and growing the most suited crop to your area or other production type. And so there's opportunity to now develop critical analysis of what specific food production types could be made from your land and what it's best suited for. Often this comes down to not just a single monoculture type crop, but being able to do integrated cropping and cropping rotations. And though it introduces a new layer of complexity, it also introduces new opportunity for supplying both the domestic and international market, as to my earlier point. The other opportunity, which I'm sure you'll speak about a lot over the course of these workshop sessions, is optimization of input sources. And traditionally in agriculture, inputs like seeds, fertilizers, and so on have been applied as deemed required, but often not fully understood. And there's a significant amount of information now available to optimize those types of inputs from quality advisors such as KG Consulting. And so being able to optimize with these input sources was often thought to be important to save some costs. So you're not applying wastage, but the real benefits which are coming out are also the environmental sustainable benefits, but on top of that, increased and improved production. And so where sustainable intensification really shows its full benefits is being able to demonstrate not only reduce costs and reduce wastage, not only environmental sustainability, but that improved production, which is absolutely critical, as we know, to farming, to feeding the planet, to feeding our local people, and to be able to increase and improve profitability. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you all today. I look forward to potentially working with you in the future, and I hope you all have a great rest of your time. Thank you very much.